Activity Theory 101. This presentation will have three parts. Part 1, we'll just talk about Vygotsky. Part 2 shows a demonstration, and Part 3 shows the generations of activity theory and implications for its use in composition and rhetoric. Vygotsky, born in Russia, 1986, died at the age of 38 in 1934. He attended the Institute of Psychology in Moscow, and he worked extensively on ideas about cognitive development, particularly the relationship of work that is still being explored. This is from Wikipedia. He was a highly prolific author, and his major work spans 6 volumes, written roughly over 10 years. Vygotsky's interests in the fields of developmental psychology, child development, and education were extremely diverse. His innovative work in psychology includes several key concepts such as psychological tools, mediation, internalization, and the zone of proximal development. His work covered such diverse topics as the origin and the psychology of art, development of higher mental functions, philosophy of science, methodology of psychological research, the relationship between learning and human development, concept formation, interrelation between language and thought development, play as a psychological phenomena, the study of learning disabilities, and abnormal human development. According to Glick 1997, many of Vygotsky's publication dates, both in Russian and in English, are contemporary. And again, he wrote this in 1997, Glick did. Vygotsky's Mind and Society wasn't published until 1978. Lev Vygotsky's proposals are considered to be the foundation of what we now call activity theory, according to Roth and Lee, 2007. While I refer to this as activity theory, the theory is also called sociocultural activity theory or cultural historic activity theory, CHAT. Basically, to really simplify Vygotsky's work, he was refuting Piaget, who talked about learning and that individuals go through stages when they learn, and that children develop speech through a mechanism where their inner speech comes to the outer, and then they actually talk. Okay, Vygotsky's theory, and through his experiments, basically show the opposite, which you can get the idea of it in the demonstration, but Vygotsky said that speech comes from the outside and goes in, and this is how culture is internalized, and this is how signs are internalized, and this is how individuals develop memory and are able to learn and are able to use language. Vygotsky he was also refuting this typical social science stimulus response model, where behavior is explained like in the nature-nurture dichotomy, where it's either something happens either because of human beings' inherent nature or because of something that's occurring in the environment to stimulate them. So he was refuting that as well. And then one of Vygotsky's key concepts that he developed was mediation. The idea of mediation, according to Engstrom, 1999, a follower of Vygotsky, breaks down the barriers between the individual mind and culture of society. Quoting Engstrom, "This expansive potential is evident if we look at the notion of control," unquote. The traditional framework existing in the social science and psychology sees humans as either controlled from the outside by social structures or controlled from the inside by biological urges or genetic makeup. In a framework that sees humans as controlled from the outside, transformations of a system which emanate from the bottom of the social hierarchy remain a mystery. And when Engstrom writes about this, he uses the example of the Berlin Wall's fall and the release of Nelson Mandela. If you're thinking about those events in a stimulus response framework, it's hard to explain them. So here I have a picture of a traditional social psychology model for understanding human behavior in the stimulus response model. So, my research was about copyright law. It could be about anything, but a person, violates copyright law because it's human nature to share, to steal, to rebel, etc. You see all kinds of articles written like this. So that's basically trying to explain the reason people violate copyright law due to some inherent human quality, and that's the explanation. On the other hand, it can be explained by something they can explain, what people are doing based on how much they're censored or something in the environment of the web page itself. So it's either one or the other, or a combination of both that's used to explain behavior. What I have here is a table from Mind and Society, page 41. Basically, this is a table from where Vygotsky, he did a lot of these different kinds of experiments, and he usually always worked with individuals, children and parents, children, young adults, mothers, like mothers and children, parents and child, young adults, and children. In this section of his book, Mind and Society, he's explaining one of his experiments. First of all, he says that he explains the experiments in the section Early Sign Operations in Children, page 40. The following experiments, he says, demonstrate with particular clarity the role of signs in voluntary attention and memory. Children were asked, and this is going to be the demonstration, so I want to explain it to you. Children were asked to play a game in which they were to answer a set of questions without using certain words in their answers. As a rule, each child was presented 3 or 4 tasks, differing in the constraints placed upon answers and the kinds of potential stimulus aids the child could use. In each task, the child was asked 18 questions, 7 of which had to do with color. For example, what color is ? The child was asked to answer each question promptly using a single word. The initial task was conducted in exactly this fashion. With the second task, we began to introduce additional rules that the child had to follow in order to succeed. For example, there were 2 color names the child was forbidden to use, and no color name could be used twice. The third task had the same rules as the second, but the child was given 9 colored cards as aids to playing the game. These cards can help you win, they were told. The fourth task was like the third and was used in cases where the child either failed to use the color cards or began to do so only late in the third task. Before and after each task, we asked the child questions to determine if she remembered and understood the instructions. A set of the questions for a typical task is the following. Have you a playmate? What color is your shirt? Do you ever go in a train? What color are the railway carriages? Do you want to be big? Were you ever at the theater? Do you like to play in the room? What color is the floor and the walls? Can you write? Have you seen lilac? What color is lilac? Do you like sweet things? Were you ever in the country? What colors can leaves be? Can you swim? What is your favorite color? What does one do with a pencil? For the third and fourth tasks, the following color cards were provided as aids: black, white, red, blue, yellow, green, lilac, brown, and gray. And on this screen here you see the results for 30 subjects ranging in age from 5 to 27 years. Contains the average number of errors on tasks 2 and 3 and the difference between the 2 tasks. Looking first at the data from task 2, we see a slight decrease in errors from age 5 to 13 and a sharp drop in adulthood. For task 3, the sharpest drop occurs between the 5 to 6 and 8 to 9-year-old groups. The difference between task 2 and 3 is small for both preschool and the adults. The difference is largest for school-age children. The processes that give rise to the summary figures are most readily revealed by looking at transcripts representative of children in the different age groups. The preschool children aged 5 to 6 were generally unable to discover how to use the auxiliary color cards and had a great deal of trouble with both tasks. Even when we tried to explain to them how the color cards could help them, children at this age were incapable of using these external stimuli in order to organize their behavior.